have some music while I read, guys. Here you go. Seems like the first part of this case is just basically deciding whether or not the courts can adjudicate this decision, and then who has like standing and can prove that they have like a actual claim here that's judiciable.
Right. So it was like
Stop. I'm just sorry. I thought you were muted. I'm just reading through because I'm skimming through this real quick. Page 28. Okay. Talking about Trump wanting to expedite the claim. Trump's initial argument was a lack of jurisdiction over the electors section. Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know this. Statement. I just want to see this form. Intent. Colorado presidential election. Oh, okay. So this is where so when you file this form to run for office in Colorado, you're attesting to, I intend to run for office stated above and solemnly affirm that I meet all qualifications for the office prescribed by law. So this is where they're getting their basis for this part here. No party in this case challenge the Secretary's authority to require presidential candidate confirm on the required statement of intent form that he or she meets the Article 2 requirements of age, residency, and citizenship. And this comes from... Okay, electors of state Republican. That's not clear about. Okay, this is two other cases. I don't think we care about these. I think all of this, is just going over like they're arguing for the standard of review, I guess. So they're going through whether.
Hey, man, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm gonna I don't know. Maybe we should resume this conversation another time. I mean,
fine. Give me your. Okay, hold on. Okay. Control F. What do you want me? Which page?
1 second. We're looking at page 97, though it's going to show up as 98 on the... So type 98 at the top there. Then you'll see down where it defines insurrection.
Okay. Dictionaries, both old and new. The district court's order in the briefing by the parties in the amicus curiae suggests several definitions of the word insurrection. For example, Noah Webster's dictionary from 1860 defined insurrection as, and then they give this definition, Noah Webster in American United States, Okay, then they do other this. In light of these and other proffered definitions, the district court concluded that an insurrection is used in Section 3 as 1, a public use of force or threat of force, 2, by a group of people, and 3, to hinder or prevent execution of the Constitution of the United States. Okay, fine.
Can I stop you real quick?
Sure.
That's so this is the lower court. That's the definition they used.
Okay.
Got it? That's the district court. Okay, you proceed.
I'll
note that that's not the same definition that you've used.
Okay, hold on. What do you mean by lower court?
The district court. So the Supreme Court, the district court ruled on this. Then it got challenged to the Supreme Court of Colorado. So what you're reading now is the Supreme Court's decision. Right? You understand? There's lower court in Colorado that ruled on this. Then it got appealed to the Supreme Court. So far we have 3 court cases.
Hold on. We're reading this is the Colorado Supreme Court's opinion, right?
Correct.
District court implies federal court, doesn't it? You have district, then circuit, then Supreme Court. Can you have district Colorado courts?
There are state district courts as well. Yes. So there could be district courts, superior court, Supreme Court is always the.
Okay, fine. This might be okay. This is the definition they use. Okay, yeah. Okay, fine, sure. Okay, I don't remember they're referring to a different thing here, but okay, sure. Yeah, I'm just double checking. Go ahead.
So the part we need to get down to, if you go to the bottom of page 99, the last paragraph, it says, although we acknowledge that these definitions vary and some are arguably broader than others, for the purpose of deciding this case, we need not adopt a single all-encompassing definition of the word insurrection. Rather, it suffices for us to conclude that any definition of insurrection for purposes of Section 3 would encompass a concerted and public use of force, threat by...
Wait. Hold on. I'm sorry. Reread. You said, finally, we noted that at oral argument, President Trump's counsel... Is that what you started reading at?
No. The paragraph below that. It starts with 184. Although we acknowledge...
Definition variants are arguably broader than others. For purposes of deciding the case, we need not adopt a single all-encompassing definition of the word insurrection. Rather, it suffices for us to conclude that any definition of insurrection for purposes of Section 3 would encompass a concerted and public use of force or threat of force by a group of people to hinder or prevent the U.S. government from taking the actions necessary to accomplish peaceful transfer of power in this country. Okay.
So what I'm saying is, so now we had 2 cases, if you count the district case 3. The Colorado case, the New Mexico case, and then the district Colorado case. If it's true that the definition of insurrection is so obvious, why do all 3 use different definitions?
Well, I'm sorry. Can you read this paragraph 184 and can you tell me what you think they're saying?
Yeah, they're saying...
No, read it and then tell me what you think they're saying.
Okay, although we acknowledge that these definitions vary and some are arguably broader than others, for purposes of deciding this case, we need not adopt a single all-encompassing definition of the word insurrection. Rather, it suffices for us to conclude that any definition of insurrection for purposes of Section 3 would encompass a concerted and public use of force or threat of force by a group of people to hinder or prevent the United States.
Why?
Now, you want me to tell you what that says?
Yeah, what are they saying here?
Okay, what they're saying is there's a lot of legal definitions for the term insurrection, and we're not going to choose to take one of them to define the term insurrection. But we think that all definitions of insurrections would include public use of force by a group of people to hinder the U.S. government, and we think that's what January 6th was.
For why? For what? Why are they defining it in this way? For purposes of deciding Amendment? This case. What they're saying is that because courts typically try not to decide more than what goes for them, for the purpose of deciding this case, they don't need to adopt they don't have to rule out what the all-encompassing definition of insurrection is, right?
No. I understand that. That's my argument. My argument is that you and other people like you that have said it's so clear what the definition of the term insurrection is. It's clear that this is a standard. It seems to be belied by the fact that we've only had 2 cases in the past 100 years, and they couldn't even agree on what the definition of the word insurrection is.
That's not true. They're not trying to agree.
True.
What's happening here is they're saying the Colorado Supreme Court doesn't have to sketch out an all-encompassing definition. The Supreme Court is literally, hold on, just to be clear, the Supreme Court is literally repeating almost exactly what I told you earlier, which was that whatever definition of an insurrection exists, January 6th was clearly an insurrection. That's literally what they're saying here. They're saying, we acknowledge that there are definitions that are, there's some vary, some are broader than others, some are whatever, but for the purposes of deciding this case, we don't need to figure out like the every single all-encompassing definition of the word insurrection. Rather, it's good enough to say that, at least for purposes of Section 3, it encompasses a concerted and public use of force or threat of force by a group of people to hinder or prevent the U.S. government from taking the actions necessary to accomplish a peaceful transfer of power in this country. That basically maps onto the 4 points that I'm using. You understand that, right?
Right. So you just repeated what I told you at the outset that this said, that they chose specifically not to adapt a definition of the term insurrection and just said, we think any definition of the term insurrection would encompass what happened on January 6th. So congratulations, you got to exactly where I said. The point of me bringing this up was they haven't charged these sorts of things for over 100 years.
None of it. Why do you keep... Okay, you have no idea. No. I'm not going to let you keep saying the same thing about charging a crime when you've already agreed it's a bad argument. You agree that a riot can happen... Hold on. Do you agree that a riot can happen without somebody being charged with a riot?
Yes.
Do you agree that an arson can happen without somebody being charged with arson?
Yes.
Do you agree that an insurrection can happen without somebody being charged with insurrection?
Yes.
Then why do you keep saying they haven't charged an individual with insurrection?
Because the fact that we could see that your definition and some of these definitions as well would have meant there were thousands of insurrections over the past 100 years. It beggars belief to say that of all those thousands of insurrections, they never even had one court case. Not
you can't
even
give me a
one.
single example.
Sure. Vietnam War protest.
Okay, which one?
Dozens.
Give me one of them, Rob. That's how legal questions work. You have to give me one protest.
Okay, so any protest, I don't have the fucking dates.
Okay, hold on. I just want to be very clear here. You have no idea, Rob. You just tried to give me a legal example, and you don't know the facts of any of the cases. You're not prepared to discuss this. Why would you bring this as an example if you don't even know?
That's not true. That's not true. What you're asking me to be like, June 17th, 1968, exactly at the GPS location of longitude 117.
Do you think that's the same as me asking? Can you give me one example of a protest? Yes. I'm asking for the GPS coordinates.
Let me ask you this, Destiny. Are you aware of were there Vietnam protests where there was violence?
I'm not aware of there being people that were brought together to all go and I don't know, what would you even have to be at for war? I don't know, to prevent Congress from voting on. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any of those. No, I don't know of any of those.
It doesn't matter. It wasn't a matter. They were against the executive and legislative policies that entered us into the Vietnam War.
You're allowed to protest. Yes.
Right. And if they engaged in violence while they're at the protest, that's a fucking insurrection. It
only if they thought that through that violence they could circumvent or compel or change or coerce lawmakers into changing a law. But hey, by the way, that might have happened, Rob. I'm telling you, it might have happened. Give me an example.
What do you think they were doing when they were there protesting? They were trying to put pressure on Congress to pull out of Vietnam. Yes?
You're allowed to protest. Yes.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And yet, according to your definition, that fits all 4 criteria.
I don't.
All 4 criteria.
Rob, you haven't given me anything that fits all 4 criteria.
A Vietnam protest.
Okay, which one?
There was
Name one.
We're speaking in the abstract here.
No, you can't speak in the abstract about a particular thing like this.
I absolutely can. Right?
Okay.
Because what I could do is we'll just say that it was a hypothetical. And if you want to make the argument, nope, there were no Vietnam protests where violence ever broke out. If you want to make that argument, that's fine. You're absolutely right that I can't tell you. In Portland in 1966, on March 13th, starting at 8:03, a bunch of
You're making it sound like this is so ridiculous to ask you for a... Hold on. Can you acknowledge that you're being a massive piece of shit by bringing up what could have encompassed thousands of protests and then concluding that I have to accept that there was an insurrection by my definition here when you don't know of a single example, a single specific example? You understand that you're being insanely bad faith there, right?
It's not bad faith. Everyone's aware of the fact that we've seen video of it, of Vietnam protests that got a hand. You had organizations like the Black Panthers that were routinely there. There were we've seen the video, we've seen the tape.
If there's so much, then do you want to? Can we look one up and you can find me one? You're telling me there's a video footage of the Black Panthers saying we're going to gather at this particular place and engage in violent action so we can get these congressmen to change their mind or some shit. You can show me, because by the way, if you can show me something like that, I'd probably say like, oh, this kind of looks like an insurrection.
That's how you change it. Where does any of that entail? Where the hell does any of that entail what your definition? All your definition says, let me remind you of what it doesn't say, we're going to engage in violence so that we can change. None of that's necessary. You were very clear.
By force or intimidation.
Let me finish. An assemblage of persons, well, almost any Vietnam protest would be that, acting to prevent the execution of one or more federal laws, preventing the lawful declaration of war in Vietnam for a public purpose, clearly a public purpose. And the only thing that you would quibble about is through the use of violence, force, or intimidation. Well, if they were there armed or if they were there to clash with police, you've already said, well, that's clear cut. If they were clashing with them, especially if they had any sort of weapons, well,
show me. Show
proof.
me. I never said it was just weapons, but show me. Give me one, and we can look at it. We can analyze it.
Mm-hmm. You understand you're being insanely bad faith by refusing to acknowledge that there were clearly Vietnam protests that got violent and demanding a specific date for them.
I don't know, Rob. The fact that you can't name one shows that it's obviously not as obvious as you seem to believe. I don't know what the extent was of violence that occurred during Vietnam protests to try to prevent people from voting for war. I don't know that. I don't know the answer. And you clearly don't either, because you can't think of a single fucking example. And you're trying to pretend that me asking for just one example of this, or you even saying, well, hold on, let me go and look. I know that there were protests around here at this time, or whatever. You acting like it's insane for me to ask it is evidence of bad faith in and of itself. It's not insane for me when I'm giving you a particular definition, and when we're talking about a particular event like January 6th, it's not insane for, and when we've gone through particular court cases, it's not insane for me to ask for, okay, give me one example of one of these marches.
Sure.
I'm going to look for more. I feel like the closest thing might be this October 21st, 1967 Pentagon riot. Maybe this would count. Let's see if we can find it. More information.
Let's see. DVD. I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you looking
why.
on Wikipedia? Is that where you're...
Well, no, initially I found this on the usmarshals.gov, and then I looked on Wikipedia for more information, but it seems like they have even less information. On usmarshals.gov, I've got no one knew what the form the anti-war protest would take, whether peaceful or violent. The picnic mood at the Lincoln Memorial changed during the long day of speeches and demonstrations. At 5:40 p.m., a determined crowd of 35,000 people headed for the Pentagon. A smaller segment of the front stormed forward, scaled the walls, and forced their way into the Pentagon. The deputies and soldiers were taunted and assaulted with vegetables, rocks, and bottles. The troops inside the Pentagon rushed outside as the violence escalated. A full-scale riot erupted. The riot lasted the night. The deputy marshals, acting as the civil authority of the federal government, made all the rest. As soon as they were arrested, many of the demonstrators simply collapsed, forcing the deputies to drag them to the waiting prison vans, while the other deputies pushed and shoved recalcitrant demonstrators aboard. This is probably the close. Unless, is there any other event that happened during all these protesters that would be different, or would this be the one we're looking for?
I'm saying the Vietnam Day March, May 2nd, 1965 at Berkeley. There were tons of these protests.
No, you're not allowed to say tons. I'm asking for particulars. Stop. You're trying to paint it with a broad brush.
I'm allowed to say whatever the fuck I want. You don't control what I can say. And I understand that you want to be intentionally obtuse about this.
I'm being intentionally obtuse when you think it was illegal for 1,000 people to protest a federal law in the year 1800? Okay, Rob.
You wanted one. You just got it. Okay, insurrection or not?
I don't know. I would need more information about this.
Okay, well, why don't you keep looking, keep reading? You're clearly interested in this. You take insurrections to be very serious.
Rob, you understand that I've written like 10,000 words on my research for this document, for the January 6th stuff, of which I have way more information, right? You understand that like the level of work I put into this, and then to give me, by the way, I had to find this. You didn't even know this. That for me to find this and read two paragraphs and go, oh yeah, I think that this definitely meets or exceeds my, I don't know. I would have to do more research into this. This is your example. I had to find this for you, Rob. You didn't even know about this one. I found this for you. So I don't know if I would include this or not. I'm not sure.
I knew in general there were protests.
No, you don't. You didn't know anything. You tried to pretend that me asking you for a particular one was...
That's not true. That's not true. I knew in general there were protests against the Vietnam War that got violent. I knew that. And I knew that that would meet the definition of insurrection.
That protests that get violent meet the...
Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. I find it ironic as you're talking about the 10,000 pages that you've gone through at January 6th. Apparently, you never got around to that fucking Colorado court case that you like to cite all the time. That
Rob,
says
you realize that I originally told you that they use a 3-point test, and that when we went and read it, they used the 3-point test. You know that I literally summarized that part. And you know, Rob, you know that, by the way, you hadn't read that case before, because after you read those 3 points, you thought you had a gotcha, and you said, oh, and it kind of looks like they're not even using your test. Like you completely forgot that I had said multiple times at the beginning of our conversation, I think the Colorado court uses a 3-point test. Do you remember any of this happening at all?
Yes, I remember, and I remember specifically saying, as you said that and before that, that this is exactly what they did. My entire argument, and I've had this debate with Pisco before, was I was shocked because I'm interested in the obvious double standard of how these things are applied, that the Colorado court case refused to determine what insurrection was because they knew if they used like such as the definitions that they were using previously from the 1860s, that Black Lives Matter would have met that definition of insurrections many times over.
No, that's not true. You just don't know. You don't understand anything about what these courts do. The court is supposed to decide, ideally, the case before it. And the court isn't generally supposed to venture beyond the case before it. So when a definition of something like insurrection, okay, is offered to talk about a particular event, the court generally isn't expected to step outside of the bounds of deciding that case. So you trying to say that the Colorado Supreme Court saying that, well, in order to decide this case, they don't have to decide exactly what an all-encompassing definition of insurrection is, proves that there is no definition. It shows you don't understand what you read, because they said just for purposes of deciding this case, and you don't understand what the function of a court is, which isn't to give definitions for the entirety of everything.
I do understand the function of court. I also understand the interest of spurging out when you know you're getting blown the fuck out in a debate, which you're prone to do. So what I'm saying is, yes, I understand that this selective court, much like many of the courts that have engaged in selective lawfare that we've seen over the years, it is true that in theory, they're only supposed to decide the case in front of them. I knew that this was a convenient way, the fact that the Colorado court, nor any court in this country declared any of the actions of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, etc. as insurrections, was very interesting interesting. And I knew the fact that they were unwilling, even when they're citing definitions of insurrection, to just say, yeah, shit, this is the definition we're going with, that it would be used by people like you to say, well, you know, technically they didn't even decide what insurrection was. So, you know, you can't really then go back and say that Black Lives Matter was an insurrection. I understand that the court was not there to determine whether or not Black Lives Matter was an insurrection. I found it very convenient that they cited several definitions that would have meant that it was clear that Black Lives Matter were over and over again.
What does this have to do with Black Lives Matter? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
The court didn't have anything before it about BLM. Are you implying that the reason why the court didn't give a more narrow definition that wouldn't have even been needed to decide the case is because they were afraid of implicating Black Lives Matter?
I'm not saying that's specifically what their only intent was, but I'm saying it had the convenient after effect of that. So if we looked at the definitions that they used as this is exactly how this came about, right? I read this part, I'm skimming through this, I read the part of insurrection. I'm debating with Pisco on Twitter, right? I'm like, Jesus, if we look at the definition they used for insurrection, which was, quote, a rising against civil or political authority, the open and active opposition of a number of persons to the execution of law in a city or a state. It's like, shit, that's basically what all defund the police were. Every movement that said defund the police, based on this definition, it is a rising against civil or political authority, the open and active opposition to a number of persons to the execution of a law in a city or state. They're literally protesting the police. Clear cut. Almost by definition, the stated definition of Black Lives Matter would make it then an organization engaged in insurrections. Pisco then correctly says, but Rob, notice that that's not the definition that they end up using. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the definition that we should use. It's from the 1860s. This is from right around contemporaneously the time that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was created, so why wouldn't we use this? He goes, no. They just said, here are possible definitions, but they chose not to pick one specifically. So you saying that Black Lives Matter meets that definition, maybe not, but that's not the definition that the court used. So that's how I was like, okay, now I got to read exactly what this whole so this was months and months before the Supreme Court even weighed in that I read this entire fucking Colorado decision. Which is why I said, okay, I know exactly what they're talking about now. They're like, here's several definitions of insurrection, but we ain't going to choose one. We're not going to choose one, which then allows people that want to defend the double standard to say, well, they didn't choose one. They didn't specifically choose one. So you can't look at the one from 1860 and say, clearly this means that basically the entire organization of Black Lives Matter is an organization.
Hold on. No, wait. You could use that one, though. Because they didn't choose, they didn't tell you what to choose. So you could use that. If anything, this court case arguably leaves open even more BLM stuff to be challenged in the courts because they didn't give you a more narrow construction of what an insurrection would be. That would exclude all of BLM. So what are you talking about? The fact that they say for the purposes of this case, we don't have to hone in on one, how does that protect BLM?
It protects BLM because the fact that if they would have used that specific case, and I'm not saying they did it intentionally, what I'm saying is may have factored in, but it didn't.
You're wrong. That's not how any of this works. What would prevent you? Because I know how courts work. What do you mean? Nothing in here prevents you.
So I just want to be clear. You know the intent of the members of the Colorado Supreme Court and why they chose to not take a specific definition. That's your argument.
I'm saying that the one that they've offered makes sense, so I'll take them at their word for it. The one that you're offering doesn't make sense. Yes, they did. What did they offer?
They specifically said they're not offering an all-encompassing definition.
I said the explanation for that. What was the explanation that they gave for that?
The explanation was that they thought that that this would have met any definition of insurrection. And you're literally repeating. And again, so two things. One, you're just repeating what I said at the outset of it. And second, it gets to the broader point. As someone who's fucking researched this so heavily and talks about this case often as, oh, well, there was a case where they ruled this was insurrection. There was the New Mexico case and there was the Colorado case. You didn't even fucking read the court decision, man.
Rob, I literally told you like 20 times that they use a three-pronged thing for their decision of insurrection in this case. How many times did I do not?
So you did read it before. That's what you're saying.
A long time ago, yes. Or at the very least an executive summary, but I'm pretty sure I read the case, yes.
So you read it before, but you were unaware that they specifically said we're not giving an actual definition of the term insurrection.
It's that the way that you're phrasing this is not accurate. What did they say, Rob? Are you even capable of phrasing what they said?
Yes, I've done it like 5 times.
Phrase what they said. Phrase what they said.
Right. There is a lot of varying definitions of the term insurrection, but we're not going to settle on one actual definition of insurrection because we think that whatever definition of insurrection we would use, January 6th meets it.
There you go. Correct.
Well, no, do you want me to say? Now, this is very indicative of the style of debate that you do. It's why you want to have debates on the...
Okay. Actually, no, I'm not. We're just going to set it. Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know if we could dive into, it's not worth it. It's like the vaccine arguments. The idea that like, the thing is that I know for a fact that if this wasn't about January 6th, that if I were to ask him, what did I ask point blank? If somebody goes to rob you and they bring a firearm, do you think that they're essentially like using that firearm to commit? And he's like, well, no, I don't think so ever. What if they know you're going to fight back? Well, no, there's no shot that he would answer that in any other way. I think I asked him, if I were to go take over your living room and I brought a gun to protect myself, am I using that gun in the furtherance of the crime? And he was like, no, I don't think so. There's no shot that he would believe that in any other circumstance, ever. There's no shot. And then the argument that in the Fry's case, that, well, they're saying that an insurrection can just include a large group of people protesting, that in the year 1800, 1,000 people protesting would have been considered levying war against the United States. I don't even know how to argue against that. I asked him that there's no evidence of anybody ever being prosecuted for this, right? Obviously, no. Holy shit. Jesus. He uses Claude.ai for his source? Yeah, at the beginning. I shouldn't have even granted him even a little bit in the beginning of this. That he's like, well, wouldn't the Justice Kavanaugh riot or whatever be considered an insurrection? Bro. Oh. Isn't this intimidation?
Rule the court. Cut his time short. A rapist should not rule the court. Cut his time short. A rapist should not rule the court. Cut his time short.
A rapist should not rule the court. Cut his time short.
A rapist should not rule the court.
Cut his time short.
A rapist should not rule the court.
Cut his time short.
A rapist should.
The fact that, what did they say? Something, no peace or whatever. And he's like, isn't no peace a violent threat? And I'm like, what about fight like hell until you take your country back? And he's like, well, no, that's just politicians speaking. And then I asked him, so do you think that all the people that happened to go down to the courthouse or the Capitol building afterwards and then commit violence, was that just a coincidence? And he's like, yes. Oh, okay. I think that whoever I reach out to, I guess it's already part of a plan. I can only reach out to. It has to be undecided people in the middle. It can't be conservatives, because there's so much at stake defending this that when somebody's willing to like bite the insane bullets of, well, in the 1800s. A protest with a lot of people would have been considered an insurrection. Yeah, it's beyond absurd. Holy shit. Okay. Do we have anything else? Going over Ukraine stuff? Nope. The pre-meditation shit was fucking crazy. Oh yeah, and he's like, well, nobody knew what they were there to do. And I was like, what about all these tweets from before? He's like, okay, hold on. If you're just going to read all these tweets, okay. He's like, okay, maybe not everybody reads Twitter. What about when people were giving these speeches? Like, okay, well, they didn't know it was about, like, the electors. And it's like, what did they think Donald Trump meant when he said they need to, fight like hell in Congress and they need Mike Pence to come there? It's like, well, they didn't know that it was about this. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, should everybody have been arrested for temporary insanity or for being fucking insane? Like, holy shit. Okay. Oh, the CoffeeZilla vid. Yeah, we can look at that real quick. Jesus. What about your new information in the Proud Boys? Yeah, but the thing, Rob does this thing where anytime you bring up something that will like clearly destroy anything, he's never looked into it before, right? So Rob can tell you like the entire corporate structure of like the Burisma company, but like if you were to ask him a single thing about Jared Kushner or Saudi Arabia, he'd be like, what's Saudi Arabia? Is that a country? Who's Kushner again? I have no idea, right? Or when you're talking about January 6th, he's like, well, actually, I read through all this court case and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, what about like the indictments or the convictions for Enrico Tarrio, for the Proud Boys? Like the people that were convicted of the longest sentences of anything related to this, the seditious conspiracy stuff? And he's like, oh, I haven't read any of that. Really? Nothing? But keep in mind, that means, so then I can't dive into any of the evidence there because now he just says he hasn't read it. I was like, okay, well, fuck me, I guess. Is it even impossible to change the mind of people blatantly about? No, obviously, that's why I said, but the commentary bros are undivided or undecided middle people, or even just like not as politically invested people like Asmongold, I think are reachable, but holy shit. Okay. I'm not even, we're not, fuck all this shit. CoffeeZilla video. Do you believe that he doesn't actually know he's being intensely bad faith? No, he has to be
Logan Paul.
There's no way that you read that any part of that or the Fry's case and you're like, well, yeah, they clearly meant that like for violence, warlike manner, and they're like, even if these people are assembled without having weapons, but enough people, that could mean evidence of like, intimidation. And Rob's like, oh, they're saying that just like 1,000 people together protesting could be intimidation. Like, Rob, is that really how you read that in the context of this entire thing? Where they're talking about insurrections, where they're talking about people assembled in warlike manners, where they're talking about people assembled in military uniforms with guns and swords? You really think that's what this means? Okay. Wait, what video? I thought I saw somebody link a video earlier about the scammed for $1 million. Am I crazy? Oh, another.
I got scammed for $1 million, and
What did you
here's
get
my
scammed
story.
by?
You may have seen the video on my main channel where I talk about how we should have been covered up to $1 million.
I feel like for every piece of evidence you bring up, Rob takes it as an independent event and explains it away as if it's unconnected. Yeah, like when he says, like, was it illegal for Trump to say that? Was it illegal for Trump to say this? And I'm like, no, of course it's not. It's also not illegal to do any individual aspect of a criminal conspiracy unless it's the crime itself. But like, that's why it's a conspiracy. It's part of a plan, right? Yeah. Holy shit. But I think it says something when all of these debates are like so autistically done, to avoid engaging with like any of the fucking substance whatsoever. But that's fine. Okay. All right. We're reading this and then I'm done. Okay. It's already late. Fuck you guys.
I got scammed for $1 million, and here's my story. You may have seen the video on my main channel where I talk about how we should have been covered up to $1 million for this lawsuit against Logan Paul because we have what's called media insurance or errors and omissions insurance. The reason I got this
Errors and omissions insurance. Errors and omissions insurance. What does this mean? Errors and omissions insurance is a type of liability insurance that covers claims against your business for mistakes you made or services you failed to provide. E&O insurance protects your business from claims by clients for negligence, malpractice, errors, or omissions you allegedly made while providing a professional service. The insurance helps you pay for your legal fees and any owed damages or settlements. Could this cover, do you think this normally cover, does this ordinarily cover defamation? I guess it could if you're like a media thing. Errors and omissions, insurance, defamation. Errors and omissions insurance protects against claims of libel or slander, also referred to as personal injury claims, that arise as a result of you performing your professional duties. Okay, so it looks like at least it can. Okay. All right.
the reason most media companies get this is because of defamation lawsuits, especially if you're going to do original reporting.
Oh, yeah, fuck. Sorry. One more thing. Yeah. Him saying that, like, the definition of insurrection at the time was, like, so vague and meaningless, or, like, they were just trying to protect against a civil war, so it shouldn't apply today. And then I'm like, what about the Second Amendment? And he's like, well, there were semi-automatic weapons that existed at the time. And I'm like, in the year 1785 or whatever the fuck, there were semi-automatic weapons. And he's like, yeah, the flintlock hyper shoot pistol that they made two of, or like, okay.
On very rich people and accuse them of things like scamming people don't take too kindly to that. And many times they will threaten to frivolously
puckle
sue you. Sometimes they even will sue you, and you have to be prepared to defend yourself. It's very expensive, and so you want some way to do that. So you can get insured for that. You can get insured for defamation. And we've actually used the same type of defamation insurance or errors and omissions insurance to cover ourselves before and successfully done that. This time we thought it would be no different. So when we got sued, I saw a lot of great support from people saying, look, I want to help. I want to help you, kind of you should do a GoFundMe or whatever. And I said to myself, well, look, I don't want to do that because I don't need it. And many commenters knew that I had insurance and they said, hey, he doesn't need it. Don't worry. He's got this errors and omissions insurance. I was like, yeah, you're right. That's true. Except then I called my insurance company to put in a claim. I'm like, yo, knock, knock. We've been paying you thousands of dollars a year. Why not time for you to pay up? And they promptly called back. They're like, actually, no, we're not going to do that because in the fine print of our policy, your new policy, we've excluded ourselves from defamation claims.
Oh, no. Okay. Fuck. I don't want to get on the bad side of the internet here, okay? Okay. Let me... Oh, Jesus. Fuck. I got to be really careful, all right? I don't want to make an enemy of the wrong side of the internet, all right? Fine print should be a red flag word when somebody says it. When you say fine print, do you just mean the terms of your agreement or contract? Or was this hidden at the bottom of a thing that you had no reason to even think that you should read? Because I don't know what you mean by fine print. This is an insurance policy. What do you mean fine print? I'm wondering, well, hold on. I'm only a minute 50 in. I wonder if they sent, sometimes you'll notice you might get an email and it might say we're updating your policy or whatever. Here are the changes or go read these changes or whatever. I wonder if they didn't read, but we'll find out. Okay.
So I was confused. I was like, wait, but the whole reason I got this was defamation. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, what does this cover if not defamation? They're like, well, errors and omissions. And I'm thinking, what do you call errors and omissions in media? You call it defamation. I mean, if CNN goes on and they make an error about some random person, that person's not going to sue them for the error. They're going to sue them for defamation. So I was
maybe not. There's probably tons of other errors and omissions that could arise as part of your practice here. I don't know his particular contract, but I could just think of one thing. Maybe me and CoffeeZilla had agreed to collab on a video, and I find that I plan a part of my content around it, and then he bails on me, and I'm like, hey, we were going to do this, we agreed to do this, and now you said you're not, and I'm going to fucking sue you for this. You fucked my shit over. I promised my audience, and now you fucked me over. I think it sounds like that in the an error in his ordinary practice or whatever, that type of insurance could theoretically cover at least the litigation fees for a case like that. I don't think it would always be or only exclusively be defamation. That's at least just from the thing that I just read very quickly. That's what it seems, but we'll see it.
Confused. I was wildly confused. I go to my policy. I'm shocked to find out, okay, sure enough. Yep. You guys are excluded from defamation. And I'm like, how did this happen? So that requires the full search. So that's the TLDR. Scammed for $1 million. If they had paid out the whole claim, right? That's obviously a big part of this.
Did CoffeeZilla, did he already pay $1 million? Or was that the maximum amount they would cover? Has he already paid $1 million in legal fees or?
Ultimately, we paid I think during the lifetime of this insurance, we probably paid a few tens of thousands of dollars to this insurance. So it hasn't been cheap to pay for insurance that ultimately did nothing. So we at minimum got scammed for that amount. If you actually look at the total policy we had, it was up to $1 million. So I don't think it's a stretch.
Okay, as you know, the undersigned law firm represents the interest of those certain interested underwriters at blank, underwriters blank, above reference insured pursuant to the above referenced policy. Subject to its terms and conditions, the policy contains the limits of liability of $1 million for each claim, and in the aggregate for all claims, with a $15,000 deductible obligation per claim. The limits of liability and the deductible include and are reduced by both damages and claim expenses. The policy incepted for a 1-year period on July 25th, 2023, and is subject to a retroactive date of July 25th, 2022, and is subject to a I don't know what that means. The policy incepted for a 1-year period on... This sounds like if you would write a contract, but let's say the contract started a month ago, and then you would subject it to a retroactive. I don't understand this part. I guess I don't know. On behalf of underwriters, please allow this letter to formally acknowledge receipt of the above referenced matter for the reasons set forth herein. Underwriters hereby deny coverage for this matter in its entirety. Our understanding of the facts relevant to this matter is based solely upon our review of the materials submitted by and conversations with representatives of the insured. Please notify us as soon as possible if our understanding of the facts is incorrect in any way or needs to be clarified. E&O in media is mostly used for accidental, unlicensed copyright usage. For example, a Marvel movie using a piece of art in their background that wasn't cleared by the artist. Oh, sure, that makes sense. It could be too. Okay. Okay, so this is a letter that he thought we sent, or this was sent right now. Okay. So this was a law firm was sending him a letter saying that his insurance company is not going to coverage this matter in its entirety, the Logan Paul matter. Okay.
Let's just say we got scammed for $1 million. But the full story, I think, is even more interesting. So initially, we had gotten a
now we'll see what he says, and I could be misunderstanding. It doesn't sound like
policy.
It doesn't sound like they're no longer covering claims of defamation. It sounds like they're just saying for this particular matter, because of the facts of this case, we don't believe that it qualifies for your for whatever your current policy is. But I don't know. Maybe he'll expand on it. But because it sounds like they're saying, for the reasons set forth herein, our understanding of the facts relevant to this matter is based solely upon our review of the materials, and they're saying that they're going to deny coverage based on those facts. But I guess it could be the facts are that it's a defamation claim and we don't cover that. But I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think it's a stretch to say we got scammed for $1 million. But the full story, I think, is even more interesting. So initially, we had gotten a message from another YouTuber who had just been in a lawsuit. This is how we started getting into this whole thing. And they told us, look, dude, I just paid $250,000. We were small at this time. He goes, I just got paid $250,000 to fight this lawsuit. I'm in the right. It's totally frivolous. This guy knows it. You need to make sure you get this thing called errors and omissions insurance.
$250,000? Who's he talking about? Holy shit.
So you can be protected like I was. So we were a small channel, and relatively the insurance was going to be very expensive for us. But I appreciated that, and I thought, that's really wise. If this channel continues in a certain direction, in the type of content that I want to produce, we need to have this. So we found a broker who kind of advertised himself as like, look, every
Logan Paul,
YouTuber needs defamation insurance if they're going to be publicly talking about news, about like different topics. So you get a hold of this guy, and we say, hey, we want that. So he goes, great. So he shops us around some insurance, and we pretty immediately find some carriers who are willing to take us, because at the time our channel is much smaller, and I would just say it's like less risky, so to speak, because the smaller you are, the less people are going to see it. It's just not as big of a risk. So we get covered. And in 2019 or 2020, we get a cease and desist letter from Dan Locke. Okay, I'm just trying to remember the year. I'm not so clear about the years, but I just remember we got a cease and desist from Dan Locke. It was one of our first. And the guy showed up at our house, really freaked us out. He's like, hey, are you blah, blah, blah? I'm like, yes. He's like, oh, not you've been served, but like, here, this is, aha, we got you. So I'm reading the cease and desist letter. It's very like angry. Lawyers use that language like, you have to respond. Like, da da da. We're going to take very, heavy legal action against you. So we were freaked out. So I called my insurance, and I was like, ring, ring. Hey, we're getting a cease and desist for defamation. Can you help? They're like, yep, we cover that. That's the whole point of the stuff. That's why you got it. So we're going to get you a lawyer. So we got a lawyer. We fought the cease and desist. It ultimately turned into nothing. In fact, most cease and desist letters turn into nothing. But we were relieved. We're like, okay, great. This stuff works. I'm very glad we have it. So we go the next year, and it gets more expensive, significantly more expensive, this type of insurance, because as you use it, they're like, well, you're a risk now. Now that you've used the thing you paid for, we have to charge you a lot more for it.
Wait, hold on.
As you use it, we go the next year, and it gets more expensive, significantly more expensive, this type of insurance, because as you use it, they're like, well, you're a risk now. Now that you've used the thing you paid for, we have to charge you a lot more for it. It's maybe like getting into an accident with like car insurance. But what I find a little unfair about this is we did nothing wrong. Like we didn't do anything. In fact, our claims, I think, were fair. And I don't think they were defamatory at all. But either way, the price goes up. We're happy to pay. We're like, sure, we don't care. As the years go, our channel starts getting bigger. And the channel, from an insurer's point of view, gets more risky, right? They're like, you're bigger, you get more views. Therefore, more eyeballs see it. You need to pay more money. Always happy to do that. Fine, whatever. At one point, the insurance company we'd been using says, okay, you know what? We actually don't want to do this anymore. For whatever reason, you're not being renewed this year. So we go to our insurance broker and we're like, okay, what do we do? He's like, well, I can shop you around a bunch more policies. What do you want? And we're like, well, we just want similar coverage. He goes, great. So he goes around. They work with a bunch of people.
Wait.
We actually don't want to do this anymore. Always happy to do that. Fine, whatever.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
And the channel.
Wait. Okay. Wait. Jesus. All right.
From it, we're happy to pay. We're like, sure, we don't care. As the years go, our channel starts getting bigger. And the channel, from an insurer's point of view, gets more risky, right? They're like, you're bigger, you get more views. Therefore, more eyeballs see it. You need to pay more money. Always happy to do that. Fine, whatever. At one point, the insurance company we'd been using says, okay, you know what? We actually don't want to do this anymore. For whatever reason, you're not being renewed this year.
You might have already received this notice, but your current EO policy with blank is being non-renewed. This just means we'll have to get you coverage elsewhere. Get your coverage elsewhere. So please fill out the attached application and return it to me now that we're 60 days out from the expiration date. Okay, so this is his legal team, I guess? Or a guy that works with him for legal stuff? Or
at one point, the insurance company we'd been using says, okay, you know what? We actually don't want to do this anymore. For whatever reason, you're not being renewed this year.
I don't understand this. He says this is the insurance company saying we'll have to get your coverage elsewhere, so please fill out the attached application. Turn to me now that we're 60 days out from... It's an insurance broker. Oh, it's a broker, a middleman. Okay.
So we go to our insurance broker. More eyeballs.
Okay, I see. Okay.
You need to pay more money. Always happy to do that. Fine, whatever. At one point, the insurance company we had been using says, okay, you know what? We actually don't want to do this anymore. For whatever reason, you're not being renewed this year.
Okay.
So we go to our insurance broker and we're like, okay, what do we do? He's like, well, I can shop you around a bunch more policies. What do you want? And we're like, well, we just want similar coverage. He goes, great. So he goes around. They work with a bunch of people.
Sorry, I'm getting back to you a little late in the timeline here, as your policy with us is set to expire in a couple of weeks on 7/11/22. Please fill out the attached app and return it to me ASAP so I can try to get your renewal quote with similar coverages, limits, and premiums as last year. The market is a little tougher this year than it was in 2021. I received more declinations than before. So please get this to me as soon as you can so we can hopefully get you the best price possible.
And they're like looking for a while. We start getting nervous. We start getting close to the deadline of when we have to renew. And because it's kind of a big deal. You don't want to lapse your coverage because then you say something is not covered, whatever. So finally, we're getting down to the wire. He's like, look, I do have this one insurance company we can go to. I don't know. They're kind of like, we can go to them. So we're like, yeah, dude, well, anything. Finally, he comes back. He goes, great news. They're going to do it. And we're like, oh, awesome. Is it more expensive? He's like, yeah, it's like 40% more expensive. We're like, we don't care. That's fine. We'll pay it. So he goes, great. Sign this, whatever. And we're good. So we sign it. And we're like, great. Little did I know, these guys had put a special exclusion, 2 exclusions actually that are relevant. The biggest one in this policy was on page 31, and it said, we are excluded from covering. It's all these things they won't cover. They're like, we won't cover defamation. Now that's the only reason we're buying the insurance, but we don't see it. Now, there's a lot of whose fault is this? Is this the fault of the underwriter for not flagging it? Is it the fault of our broker for not telling us because he's the expert? Is it our fault for not reading the whole all 50 something pages of the
Okay, I don't have the best understanding of insurance and all that because fuck insurance and fuck all that. My assumption though for this is that you would 1,000,000,000,000% hold the fucking broker accountable. Why the fuck would I have a middleman if it's not his job explicitly to read through the fucking policies? That's why the fuck you pay a middleman. Otherwise, fuck you. I'll just go sign up for the insurance directly. Why the fuck would you have a broker if he's not looking out for your interest? This is why he collects a fee. He's getting paid for it. Isn't that why you have a broker? Isn't this the point of having a broker? What the fuck?
contract? We're not insurance experts, but should we have read it? Should we have hired a lawyer, right?
No, bullshit. Should you have a lawyer for other purposes? Sure. But I mean, if you have a broker, I would assume that this is part of their ordinary work. This is part of what they do. Imagine that your broker had signed you up for a policy and you find out that the policy was actually 52 pages of them writing red rum over and over and over again. Should you have read the policy? I mean, no, that's why you're paying someone else to do it. What the fuck?
We're not reading the whole all 50 something pages of the contract. We're not insurance experts, but should we have read it? Should we have hired a lawyer, right? I'm not going to get into all of that in this video. The point is, there's this exception in the fine print that we never hear about. And there's also an exception from what they call digital assets. They're excluded from covering it if it's about digital assets. Now, if you've seen my content, all the videos are, well, not all of them, but a lot of videos are about some type of digital asset. So it's they wrote a policy, charges 40% more, and then every single part of the policy is just drawing a box where it's we won't cover anything that this channel talks about. So anyway, I mean, I guess that's good business for them if they can get people to sign it. And it was sent to us by a broker. They're like, yeah, this is the only guy that'll cover you. Here's the only thing you can get. And we're like, okay, great. So we pay for this for 2 or 3 years. I forgot the exact, I have to pull up the exact emails of when we first signed with these guys. But we pay tens of thousands of dollars for this insurance that does not cover us.
Especially, I'm so curious. I'd have to go back and check. When he filed his first claim a long time ago, I wonder, did he go to his insurance company directly or did he file the claim through his broker? So his broker knows the types of claims that he's likely to file. Well, he must have because there was a rate increase and his broker would have known why the rate was going up and everything, right?
Now, the whole Logan Paul stuff happens. We call our broker. They say, no.
Fuck. I wanted to shit on CoffeeZilla. I wanted to go hard on CoffeeZilla. I needed to fight with the rest of the internet on this. But this sounds like you just got royally fucked.
Call our broker. They file with the insurance company. The insurance company says, no, we're not going to do that. The broker starts freaking out. It's the first time they've heard of this. They had no idea.
That's not acceptable. They're the broker. What are you paying them for? If not to read through contracts. Most of these are fucking probably boilerplate anyway. They should have a whole team of people that are used to reading exactly these. You probably flip through it. It's yeah, that clause, yeah, boom, boom, boom. What do you mean?
This is all in writing too. It's actually crazy what they put in writing. They're yeah, we had no idea that this was part of the thing. We didn't know. So
that, if they truly did say that, assuming Coffee's not lying about anything, then it sounds like the broker should just get fucked. This is their job.
Yeah, that's the full story of what happened. I mean, it's kind of tough because by the letter of the policy, it's kind of did the insurer do anything? I mean, they just offered us a deal and we took it. So it's more okay, well, the broker? Anyway, we're talking to people because we're dude, how can we pay tens of thousands of dollars for insurance that doesn't insure the thing we paid a broker to find us. It's like paying a broker to find you car insurance, and then they like sell you like car insurance that excludes any type of accident that includes something with 4 wheels. Like that's literally what this is like. But now we're in this crazy position where we're having to like talk to lawyers about if we need to like lawyer up versus the insurance company that's supposed to be paying for our lawyers in the other case. Like, it's so stupid. We're now having to be like, wait, no, I think you scammed us?
It'd be against the broker, because the insurance company probably didn't do anything wrong. I'm imagining they sent over the paperwork, the broker said it was fine, and then the broker said A-okay, and then it sounds like the broker is the big fuck up here.
Also to the broker, like, we're in this ridiculous situation where we should have had insurance to protect us if our insurance didn't pay up, because now we got to talk to all these other lawyers too. It's so frustrating. And by the way, not only are we now having to look at all our options for what to do about all this, I have to read you this, dude. The broker not only admitted he didn't know what was in the policy, he put in writing that the underwriter didn't know what was in the policy. So he says, the quote and email from blank never mentioned that this exclusion was being removed.
The underwriter did say that he was very surprised and confused by this. The quote and email from blank never mentioned that this exclusion was being removed. It is not common for agencies or underwriters to read through every line and exclusion of every policy that we receive. So while we could have checked the policy to see that defamation was excluded, some fault lies with the blank for not disclosing this to us when we were quoted. Bro, really? Hold on, I don't know anything about this industry, so I could just be totally fucking wrong. This sounds like this guy is scrambling. What? Hold on. Now listen, the underwriter they didn't even say that it was changed. Bro, what am I paying you for? What the fuck?
It's not common for agencies or underwriters to read through every line and exclusion of every policy we receive. So while we
also, fuck, I'm talking so far outside of my expertise, okay? Just everything I'm giving you is like 10% conviction. I thought the whole point of an underwriter is somebody that basically affirms that like everything works out like to the formulas or mathematical calculations of the company. Like an underwriter's saying like, okay, well, here's the conditions. You know, you've got XYZ medical condition. Here's our payouts, the deductibles and everything else. We probably make money on this. And the underwriter like makes sure like, yeah, all of these things like fit our formulas. This is good to go. We're underwriting this. This is A-okay. You're ready to go. What would an underwriter do if not this?
could have checked the policy to see that defamation was excluded. Some fault lies with the carrier for not disclosing this to us when it was quoted. What? So they're just pointing fingers at each other, but...
And their broker, like, literally admits fault in the email. Like, holy shit.
The person actually affected is us. So... and then they also say they not only didn't know what was in my policy, they have apparently may have sold this policy to other people. In another email, they say, it looks like it's going to have to go up the ladder at the insurance company to find out why this wasn't disclosed to us earlier, that this exclusion was in there. I've been told by the underwriter that this has his full attention. I think he might be really concerned because they have a few other accounts with this insurance company. And if this exclusion is on all of them, then it's going to represent a larger problem for their business. So this may have been sent.
Well, but you have no idea. You have no idea if any of this is true, right? Because this is just being communicated to you by the broker, who himself might have completely fucked up, right? Now we have no clue what's true here. Like, the broker could just be covering his ass while he tries to figure out how to solve this because he knows he fucked up hard. It's in their best interest to get this resolved amicably for all parties. He might just be saying that so that Coffee doesn't like try to get a lawyer and go after the insurance company who's going to say, well, what do you mean? We sold them this policy. Underwriter approved it. It's not my fault your broker didn't fucking read it. We thought that was his job.
Accounts with this insurance company, and
also I could be very wrong. I don't know. All this seems really, really, really unprofessional. But maybe it's like really, really small businesses. Like, why is my broker telling me about like the back and forth he had with the underwriter, or telling me about what the underwriter talked about with the insurance company? Like, why the fuck am I even getting all this? What the fuck? This sounds like really, really, really wacky.
If this exclusion is on all of them, then it's going to represent a larger problem for their business. So this may have been sent to tons of people who think that defamation is excluded for them as well, and it like actually isn't. I just think this is so crazy to me that we're in this situation, but you know, we are. And ultimately now we're selling shirts. I mean, that's how we got here. That's how we got to selling this very cool, very nice shirt that you should definitely buy, because I haven't even calculated how many shirts I need to sell to make up for this, but it's a lot. Okay, so if you could help out, that would be very appreciated. Pre-order is for 14 days, I believe. We got this shirt. We got a lot more. You can go check it out on the website, coffeezilla.store. But either way, that is the story of how I got scammed. Yes, me, Coffeezilla, got scammed for $1 million. We got Dylan Dennis. We got fine printed, whatever you want to call it. Tough, man. Tough. Let me know if you have a similar story in the comments below, because a lot of people I've talked to actually are like, yeah, I've had the same experience with insurance, not media insurance, but they're like, yeah, I had paid for insurance that ultimately, I guess that's their job, is to not pay. Like they don't, obviously they don't make money from paying out $1 million on a policy that they maybe got paid like.
To be clear, that's not the job of insurance. The job of insurance is not to not pay, right? Insurance wants to, this is like a weird, there's like weird things where people are like, oh, cops want to fuck you over and the DA wants to fuck you over and the government hates you and the FDA is trying to fuck you over and insurance trying to fuck you over. Like, what insurance wants to do is they want to charge what they think is a fair market price for covering whatever particular thing it is that they agree to cover. If you pay for it, and if your policy explicitly says that they cover it, they will cover it. And I call them and they'll do it. I've talked to plenty of people, believe it or not, fucking I scammed my insurance 15 years ago for my fucking saxophone, okay? Like, if you as long as your shit is covered, you call. I've talked to people that got like a full fucking rental car for a week and their car got towed and they didn't fucking pay anything because they're paying out the ass for their crazy no deductible bullshit or whatever. Like, if you have insurance and the policy says it and it's in the terms, like, you're good. Like, use it. You're fine. The idea that insurance is going to try as hard as they can to fuck you over, like, I'm sure it does happen in some cases, but like, nobody's going to buy your insurance if it's going to fuck you over intentionally and it gets like a really bad rap and nobody ever fucking pays out. Like, they know they're going to lose you forever as a fucking customer. Like, but
$30K for. So they make money from not paying out claims.
They make money from collecting premiums from people. That's where they make money from.
So I'm interested. If you guys have stories below of time.
Because it wouldn't surprise me. My guess is the insurance companies probably have insurance for claims as well. That's probably the case.
Times where you had something similar happen in your life. I want to know about it. Either way, thanks for watching. You can appreciate a little pain at my expense. I'm laughing because I've had a little bit of time to process this. It's almost been a full month now, so sitting with this. Oh, actually a little over a month. So I can appreciate the irony of the situation. But when it first happened, let me tell you, I was not happy. I was sending some very angry emails. I was like, and yeah, that's basically it. Don't forget, go get yourself a shirt. You know, thank you, CoffeeZilla. I'm suing. I really got to sell shirts now. All right, goodbye.
Okay. Oh, good luck. I'll be back tomorrow. No more crazy arguments with Rob. Jesus. I love you guys. Be careful. Do you have errors in omissions insurance? I don't make any errors, and I never omit anything. So